Yo, Father Longlegs, this is You Can Tell Me Anything, the podcast where comedians confess something they want to get off their chest. I'm very excited for my guest today. I've known her ever since I started in New York City, and she's just like a huge star now. I'm actually like, when I always say like, I'm so excited I got her, but I like, seriously, I feel like she's always so busy. She's always doing appearances all over. You've seen her on Conan. You've seen her on Lights Out. She has an album out called My Dad Paid for This, and a new podcast called I Love a Lifetime Movie, co-hosted with Naomi F. Carrigan. Put your hands together for Megan Gailey.
That's me clapping for myself.
I love that. Yeah, I always introduce it like a live show. I don't know why.
You give a really good introduction. I did a show last night. Like I got to do outdoor shows last night, and there was a man who was hosting, and he did not know. Like I don't think he was really like a comedian, because like he didn't even know that like the last thing you should say should be their name.
Oh yeah, was it a charity thing?
No, but
okay.
it had a.
I asked that because I realized there's so many.
Repeat, so there were charity-esque vibes. I don't know why a step and repeat. And this man was very nice.
I realized like there's so many interpretations of why I asked that, so I feel like I have to explain. It's not like, why would you do a show if it's not?
No, that's because like people that are not traditional like stand-up hosts. Yeah,
because the times I've like done those, they'll literally be like, okay, so we're gonna host, here's the lineup. I'm like, great, and then they're just like, and go. You're like, oh,
you know what?
Okay.
This actually, you saying this reminded me of something that I can confess to later on.
Oh, cool. Okay. Well, before we get too far, I like to start on a positive note, which I guess outdoor show, that could be a positive, humble brag, but would you like to confess something good just so the listeners can get to know you and kind of have like something good to start off on?
Oh, wow. Okay, guys, I'm vaxxed, and so I am, I'm volunteering.
That's
in person.
It's like noble, but you're saying it.
But the thing is,
your face.
I need everybody to be like, wow, she's good. You know, like I am volunteering. I didn't post any photos. I didn't tweet about it, but I did volunteer this week, and I'm going to keep doing it I volunteered before the pandemic too. I was a hospice volunteer.
Yeah, I remember. I feel like we've talked about this off stage, but like that you were working with elderly.
I love old people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like they're my people. So obviously this last year has been very hard for me because like this has hit them the hardest. And also I can't like see them and hang out with them. And I just like, even when I see them at the grocery store now, I'm like, I hope you're okay. My little sweetie pies. Gosh, there was a man, we were at like a bar recently, like outside, and there was an old man there, and him and I really connected, and I could tell the bartender hated him. And so I was like looking at the bartender like, why are you acting this way to the man? And then the bartender, when I got up there, he was like, that man is the worst. And I'm like, no. And he was like, he's wearing an NRA hat. And I'm like, I like still can't not be his friend. Like, I know that's wrong, but I just love this old man, and I'm still on the old man's side. Even when they're bad. Even when they're bad.
There is a lot of bias against the elderly in ways that like it's made me even think sometimes. I'm like, oh, I feel like at the airport line when people are slow and it's an old person, I catch myself now because I'm like, I'm trying to do that work of like realizing where my biases are, and of course I still have them, and I'm like, yeah, I guess if this was my grandma, I'd be annoyed at anybody like judges
being shitty. Yeah, because the thing is, their bodies are, you don't know what kind of like just constant pain they may be in due to arthritis or just like living on this earth for a long time, and they're having to do like new shit that they've never seen before. It makes no sense, and it sometimes takes them a beat. And we're so like accepting of children going through that, and just not accepting of anyone else.
That's true. That's a good way to put it, because I feel like a lot of like seniors actually almost like built the world, like they literally built the world we're in, but like if you think about it figuratively too, they all added to the zeitgeist in a way that got us here to accept like new technology, and then when it moves past them and we forget about them, we think it's their fault they're not on board. But with children, it's like they know nothing, and it's like we're just like, oh my god, so much potential. It's like,
no, they're full-blown fucking idiots. And I mean that with love. I was a full-blown idiot too. It's like, didn't know you know, how a baby came. It's like, yes, you're dummy. You're a dumb. But like an old person, and obviously, listen, they held up some systems that weren't great. Like they're not without flaw, but on like an individual basis, like I mean, just give them some grace.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think about that a lot about like how I'll be because I'm like, right now I'm trying to be as plugged in and in tune with things as they happen, but it does get tiring. And to me, I'm like, well, I'm always going to be on the side of justice. That's what I say. But then I realize like as you get older, you just disconnect, right? Like you have your family unit, you have less time to plug into the news, and you are more susceptible to misinformation. So sometimes it is a matter of like when you said the NRA thing, I mean, I don't know this man at all, but I do know that there are lobbyists that target older people with misinformation around issues like, Second Amendment rights in a way that will almost create a false narrative. And so that makes me go, oh, they could be victims too. And then I'm like, oh shit, I could be like that. Like, what?
Also, it's like, we don't know if this man served.
Yeah.
And so it's like, he could be coming from a military background, and this is just like what he thinks. But like, this is an old man who's living in Los Angeles, in Highland Park, Los Angeles, which is like a young, extremely diverse neighborhood. When he walked past my husband, who is a Filipino man, he was like, hey, but like he was being kind to everyone. It just seemed like this bartender hated him. And I'm like, I think you hated him and you're using this NRA hat as a reason to be like, this guy sucks. And it's like, you really don't know his story.
Like just judge based on tips. And I imagine old people are at a point where they're like, I'm not going to fucking tip you. You're not nice to me. And it's like, yeah, I would be the same way as an old person.
Yes.
But traditionally, I think old people do get a pass, but also having been a waitress, I can see that some bartenders misjudge, and it's like, hey, they're old, let them like.
They don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know. And it's like right now it's so, I mean, we're afraid over the last year. We've been afraid to go out, or at least I have. And it's like, I'm not even in the group that this could like die from it. Like these people are like genuinely taking their lives in their hands by even going out. Just be nice. Give them a smile when you give them this glass of wine.
Oh, well, I love that. I feel like this is like watching you get heated and about like social justice. I feel like is like what I love so much, because you're so good at like folding, like just being hilarious and folding punchlines into just messages that are like, oh, well, she slipped that in there.
Wow, thank you.
I mean, I'm sure you have been told that before, but this podcast I actually started because I started going to therapy so late in life, and I realized like how, I mean, it sounds dumb, but like, talking to people about, like things that are harder to talk about with your friends, or like, it really changed my life. And then doing comedy also helped, because I realized a lot of comedians are very open about therapy. So I do like to ask my guests, because everyone comes from a different place when it comes to like mental health. Like, what's your experience with therapy? And if you don't go to therapy, like, what's your sort of like self-care routine? You're very self-aware and very well-adjusted. So I'm curious, like, do you have like routines that you do when, you're having a bad day and things like that?
So I started going to therapy when I was 12. And I lost a friend in 7th grade to suicide. And so I think that really put a lot of, it definitely, I was going through something already, and it made my mom, who, is a nurse, and and had people in her own life struggle with mental health. So she knew, and even though I grew up in a place where, like, I grew up in central Indiana, Indianapolis, people were not talking about mental health in the 90s, especially for, like, adolescents. It was like, rub some dirt on it, go out. But
it was like a punchline in sitcoms, like, anytime I heard the word.
Yeah. And, like, I had 2 older brothers, and like they sort of had like acted out, or had like snuck out, not even like bad, or like found cigarettes. And so they went to see this like counselor.
Okay.
And then my parents took me to see him, and he was like, she needs to see like a specialist. Like, she's above my pay grade. And so my mom found me a woman who specialized in adolescent girls. And I saw her until I was like 22, way past adolescence. And was started taking medicine at like 16. I've been on Lexapro for almost half my life. And then I went away from it when I was living in Chicago, and I was not in therapy during that time, but like it's funny because like that's when I was like really starting stand up. I was a waitress. Like there were all of these outlets for my mental health. And then when I got to New York, I really struggled a lot. And so I saw a woman, and then I've consistently been in therapy. No, I guess not consistently. I had like, I'll go through, I'm on my like 4th therapist ever in my life right now.
I think people go in and out, and especially if you started so young and you were building those tools, it makes sense. Yeah. I'm surprised by, well, first of all, I'm sorry about your friend. I didn't know that. I think we've talked about it, but obviously, you know that I lost my brother to suicide. So I think that's a topic that's very close to my heart. But I think a lot of people I speak with who had to go to therapy as children had bad experiences. So I'm surprised in like a positive, like in a, I don't know if it's I'm pleasantly surprised to hear your experience because I haven't heard that much. So I'm interested to explore that because it sounds like not only did you, you kept going until you were 22, so you formed a bond and trust with your
very close bond. And like I would see her name was Linda. I like still think about her. I'm like, she saved my life, you know? Like it was, I was going through a lot and I was not showing any of it in my like outward world. It was just really like contained to therapy, and then I would go out and put on this like happy, brave, you know, I was prom queen, you know, so I was like pretending to.
So if you guys didn't hear that, she said she was prom queen.
And so it's like, you don't think of a prom queen having like these deep depression, and I was going through periods of very, very traumatic depression, but my mom was very much on board with it. And then I would see a different woman who was prescribing the medicine to me.
So it wasn't through school, right? Because it sounds like I think that sometimes, I'm sure school counselors are great, but sometimes it feels like they're like an HR department where they're there for liability. Because everyone I've spoken to thus far, which I'm sure there are exceptions, but like my brother went to a school counselor too. Like they tend to be more like, oh, let me make sure you're in the system. But it sounds like going to a specialist does change because they know what you need.
And it's a true privilege. Like it was, my parents were paying out of pocket. And I remember my dad like specifically being like, this shit is expensive. Like, I mean, you know, it was like $200 an hour. This is now 15 years, like a long time ago. And it was like, and I was going weekly and my parents were paying that out of pocket. And my mom was like, that's what we have to do. You know, like we're doing that. But it was like it definitely was a point of contention between them, the cost of what my therapy was.
It's tough to think about it that way because it's one of those things that can feel so black and white. And I don't think I even, like before I lost my brother, I was going to therapy, but only on insurance. And afterwards, even when I couldn't find the right people on insurance, because LA, most are just out of network, I realized I was like, this is a cost that's worth it. Like some people buy, you know, go out and drink. Some people buy shoes. I probably still do those things, but I just had to think about it as this isn't an extra thing. Like like there is a point where if you leave it, you know, alone too long, that it can go really south. So it's cool that your parents had that. Yeah.
But it's also fucked up that like insurance wouldn't pay for a child to go to therapy. You know, it's like it would, I mean, and that same insurance plan is perhaps different now. You know, it may just not have been, I don't think mental health was taken as seriously when we were growing up. And so maybe that is covered now, but it's like, just pay for the fucking insurance. Yeah. It's like, just insurance, just pay for this. Like it's, if I needed an inhaler, you would pay for it. If I needed.
To call it mental health as a separate thing from health is like strange. I will say like, it probably has changed a little, but from some experience researching last year into trauma therapy, it hasn't changed a lot because I did seriously look into going to like more intensive trauma therapy to deal with some stuff. And it like everywhere I went was like, because I was proactively trying to like prevent getting worse. I could care. Yeah, I could sense that like I have patterns and I was like not at a point where I was like in danger or crisis, but everywhere I went, they were like, do you know what this means? Like if you put yourself in an institution, like usually people get checked in against their will. And I was like, well, that sounds like a problem. So there really isn't a place for people who don't want to get to that point where they're checked in against their will and want to prevent it. So I've turned to like, that's why I like to explore everybody's experience, because I don't think there is one that's perfect yet, but I think doing anything at all and working on it is really like kind of the key. But
yeah,
I want to go back to one thing you said, because you were talking about the prom queen, and did you watch that? Not just to keep bringing it up, but although I do think it's really cool. But did you watch the Britney doc on Hulu?
Yes.
So that to me made me realize, like, when we were growing up, it was that feeling of like, oh, you can't be like the popular girl and have all these feelings, because the idols we saw were like that. And then watching that doc made me realize, like, well, there was something I connected to her. Like, she felt all those things and she was just hiding it. And so I think that it's an illusion that you couldn't be that. In fact, actually, I think most people who have the capacity to be those leaders and to be, you know, held together, like the prom queen, you know, the team captains, Britney Spears, have struggled with anxiety and depression.
And I very well could have been like open about it. It was just whatever my perception was.
I know. I'm not saying you should. Yeah, of course. That's like what it was at the time.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's funny too, because I feel like when my sister first met you, she was like, I love her. She reminds me of Britney Spears. So maybe that's why I made that.
Oh my gosh. No, I mean, it's still like, even I try and be more open now, and like stand up obviously pushes you to be vulnerable. But it's like, I almost sometimes worry now that I like put too much out there, but it's like, it really is a defense mechanism of just like my own fear of, I don't want to go back to that place where I'm pretending and I'm really like dying inside.
Yeah, well, I think that's really well said. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll talk about your confession. And we're back. Megan, what a great break. And I'm so excited because I love talking to you, and I can't wait to hear. Is there anything you would like to tell me?
I get satisfaction from picking my nose.
Okay. Oh, that's a fun one.
And like my husband, you know, he obviously sees it, and he's like, you don't adjust for me being around at all. And I'm not eating them, but I just like
I like that that's your first just like, don't worry, I'm not eating.
I'm not eating the boogers, but like, and obviously like blowing your nose is great too.
Is it specifically that you're okay? This is so interesting because I don't think it's as uncommon as you think. I don't have this as an adult now, but I definitely had a phase as a kid where it was like an obsession with like getting everything out of my nose.
Yes, that's how and like the thing is, I'm like I floss multiple times a day. Like I just like love flossing, and I just when I wake up or like I'll be working out or something, and I'm like, I know that there's a booger in my nose, and it just drives me insane, and I don't like it clogged up there, and so I take True. I like. My husband's in the he's in the room next door, and he's going to be like, what are you telling people on podcasts? And so I just like to get it cleaned out. And, you know, my mom made me use like a neti pot at some, like, remember those? And it like totally grossed me out. I was like horrified. And even when I see people use like the wax things where they like take it out of their ears, I don't like any of that. I just do not like right now, it's like I could fully pick, if you were not here, I'd be picking my nose while I'm sitting at my computer because I feel boogers in there right now.
Is it this? Okay, so because, first of all, I will relieve you of your shame because it's definitely not, I'm sure it's not uncommon. People just don't talk about it as much. So I'm very glad you're sharing this. And this is a fun one to talk about. But I'm curious, like the satisfaction, is it coming, because, you know, there are sometimes like tics where you're like obsessed with doing something over and over, but it sounds like, is it with the fact that you're like, if you see the thing that's coming out, you know that it's gone?
Yes. Yeah. I love that. And like, I don't get the same satisfaction when I just blow my nose.
Yeah, because it's, well, I mean, I don't know. Do you look at the tissue after you're blowing your nose?
I mean, yeah, I'm like a looker.
Okay,
I look at everything. I like, look at my underwear. Look at like when I'm white. I just like.
Well, that's healthy, I think.
I love to pee clear. I'm just really into, and a part of this too may be having like a nurse for a mom that like there's just she was so desensitized to everything. Gotcha. Like having a nurse for a mom is amazing because like nothing disgusts them. Like really, I pooped my pants at school in high school. I pooped my pants like, yeah, it was really fucked up. Actually, I was so deathly ill.
That's why you're prom queen.
I was so deathly ill, and my theater teacher was like, if you don't come in and do your scene, like you're getting an F or something, like bad. What? And so I had to go in and do it, and then I like finished and was like, I need to go to the nurse's office, and she was like, okay. And so as I was going to the nurse's office, I pooped my pants, and then my mom came from work and cleaned it up, because I was like, I called her, I'm like, Mom, you know, I'm a grown up at this point. I was like, I think I'd driven myself there. And I was like, and this is not the last time I pooped my pants either. I was like, you got to come get me. And she comes and she's like, well, I can't of course she knew the school nurse, you know, all the nurses know each other. She's like, well, I can't make her clean it up. And you're so sick that like, if you clean it up, you're going to puke again. And that's just like, but they also like a mom who's a nurse, they like know when you're faking sick. Like I was not able to get out of anything that way.
Oh, that's so interesting. And like, so was there a health element to the nose thing? Because like you're adding this extra layer that I never thought about. Like if having a mom that's a nurse, it's like you are, because some people do like, you know, when you say you're a looker, like you're checking for health. Like my mom's not a nurse, but when I first got my dog, I would like call her and ask her about like, is this normal? Because she has dogs. Yeah. And she was like, here's what I did with you guys. I always just check the poop. So if your dog is pooping normally, I wouldn't worry. And then I always think about that now because when he's like sad looking, I'm just like, all right, let me see what your poop's like.
Yeah, I guess I do just I like to keep tabs on the secretions of my body.
Okay. And so this is what is fascinating to me because I think most people who are listening to this know you because I'm
a girly girl.
You're a very, you're a girly girl. You're very like, I would even say like a popular girl if we were in high school, you know what I mean? Like, which traditionally the booger pickers would have been on Dorks. The other side. Yes. Right. So this is what I'm very fascinated by because I feel like I was maybe more of a dork in school, and so I would hide that stuff, and then maybe succeeded in hiding it enough to, like, maybe that's why I never leaned into it. But then when I think about it, it's like, there's nothing inherently dorky about wanting to
it's like
clean
a
up your nose.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. So I'm curious, like, were you always this open and free around your, like, friends in school?
No. Oh, no. It was like, no, like my period was like horrifying to me. Like everything, I was just like, oh my God, this is so embarrassed. Everything like mortified me. And now I just fully pick my nose in my car in traffic. Like I'm just like, and I'm just like, my car is like very freeing for me. I love doing it there. I have floss in my car. Like
I call my car my womb. I love, because it's like, especially in LA, when you're driving around all the time and you're like far away, it's like the feeling of just sitting in your car. So I relate to that.
And you got to have a lot of shit in there because you're going to be in there for like an hour and a half. And so it's like, I probably should get tissues in my car. That would actually be...
You should get tissues in your car, whether you pick your nose in it or not. I feel like it's a good thing to have in your car.
But I do see a lot of people also picking their nose in their car. So I think maybe that's a safe place.
Have you ever
like at work
made eye contact with someone while you were picking your nose and they were also, and you're like, whoa?
Yes, for sure. And I've also made eye contact with someone while I was picking my nose and they were not. And I'm like, hello.
Has anyone ever called you out about it?
Just my husband.
It's so, because you're so, like, I feel like I can't see you getting embarrassed about that, and I could almost see if someone gave you shit, like, you would embarrass them. But when did that change? Because you're saying, like, in high school you were very, like, embarrassed and all that. Was this more of, like, an adult thing, doing comedy and finding sort of, like, oh, I can just be myself? Or was there more of, like earlier on where you sort of, like, oh, I have this confidence and it doesn't really matter, you know, what I do, especially because these are natural things.
I think it would like sometimes come out. Like I remember in 7th grade, a guy like took a pad out of my locker and like threw it on the floor and was like, oh, and I was like, so I have my period. What? like I'm a woman. And so like there were glimpses of that when it's like that traditionally would have like mortified me, but for some reason, like maybe because a guy did it, like I was always fine like yelling at a man.
It's like you're reminding me of in Mean Girls when they cut the holes in Regina George's tank, and then she's like, Like,
yeah, I guess it was that vibe too. But then, I was in a sorority. I lived in a house with like 90 other women. And part of that was just learning like, oh, women are gross. Our bathrooms are gross. Like guys are definitely gross. When I go into a guy's bathroom, it is different. Like there's just hair in places that's crazy, but it's like, so I think women are perhaps better at cleaning up after themselves when they're gross, but our bodies are, bleeding a lot. And so it was like when you're around 90 girls that are like 18 to 21, like you see a lot of shit. And it really makes you be like, oh, okay, I'm not the grossest.
That's really funny because I think guys inherently, like, especially college boys, are gross in that their environment is gross. But I almost had the opposite thought is like girls, like with the hair and products and everything, like I feel like girls put more time into looking good when they step out of the house, and way less time into, at least when you're like in your college years, way less time into the environment. And I was very shocked when I, like, in the same way, like when I went to school and like hung out at my girlfriend's houses where they would literally be like Chipotle on the pillow next to a vibrator. And then like I went to a bachelorette party where we like rented an Airbnb, and I was like, nobody brought shampoo, but there was like dry shampoo. And I'm like, this is like, we just assumed it was like, we're just gonna like just do the Febreze thing. But then guys are just not thinking about it, and it gets gross over time. But I feel like they don't really like need that.
Like I taught my husband what a whore's bath was like 2 weeks ago. He was like, what's that? I'm like, you just like splash some stuff on your parts. And he's like, oh, okay. I just would take a shower. I'm like, well, sometimes you just want to splash some water on your parts and be out the door.
That's so funny. My boyfriend doesn't have a blow dryer, which I guess is like he has short hair, but I'm always like appalled. I'm like, wait, how do you're an adult, like you've never needed like, and I'm like, I guess you guys just don't need as many things.
I have a sister-in-law who doesn't have a blow dryer. And then I think she maybe now has gotten one because I was like, what the fuck is going on here? And she has like long, beautiful hair. And I just was like, what kind of woman? And like made like a big stink about it. And so she may have one now, but it's like worse than a hotel one.
That's so funny because I realized, like, so many of the habits I picked up of, like, what is, like, quote-unquote normal, like, girly is from living or being around girls, like, in college. Because I never used moisturizer. And, I mean, I guess it's, like, not like I had great skin. I had okay skin through high school, so I didn't have to think about it. But, like, I just never knew you were supposed to do it until my skin started getting really dry. And then I was asking friends for tips, and they were like, well, what moisturizer do you use? And I was like,
what's that?
What do you mean?
Peggy had me on like a skin regimen and like got my eyebrows done, and she wasn't like, it wasn't Toddlers and Tiaras shit. She just was like, I know that you're going to do something stupid, so I'm just going to meet you ahead of that stupid thing, and we're going to get you on a good path.
That's nice. That's like, I feel like that's...
my eyebrows are gone now because I started getting them waxed in the 90s. And...
Your eyebrows look great. But I feel like you hit a great point about the toddlers and tiaras because I also know kids whose parents like were like, you're 12, I'm going to take you to get your hair dyed blonde for the rest of your life. In a way where it's like, I want you blonde. But it sounds like your mom's values were, it was like, I want you to feel good and I'm going to help you, but this isn't the main thing. And so
we're not going to have like trash stuff, She just was like, you're going to get your eyebrows and you're going to shave them off. And like, there's a lot of bad examples of beauty.
I cut my own hair in 3rd grade, so
my mom like got her hair stuck in some, and like she let me get bad highlights. Like I have auburn hair and I just like wanted to be blonde so badly, so she was like, okay, fine. And I got bad highlights and I thought they were awesome, and I look back on photos and I'm horrified by them. But at some point I like stopped doing that, and that was probably college. I was like, maybe I'm not blonde, maybe this is not the life for me.
I mean, you're telling me I had blonde hair until the pandemic, and then it grew out. So
I thought it looked good on you, though.
oh, thank you.
But like, you're also a grown-up, like a 13-year-old getting highlights. Like I was getting like, they put the cap on you and then they tweeze out hairs. I mean, that's what was happening in Indianapolis in the 90s. So it was like not good highlights either.
That's so funny because it's like how who you were in school was probably like in school who I was like wanting desperately to be when I was a kid, because I wasn't allowed to wear makeup and things like that. But at one point
I just had a picture fall. Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
A ghost.
Are you haunted?
A ghost.
It's all good. Sometimes pictures frames fall. There was an earthquake the other day. I like to just pretend that it's not a ghost and it's just earthquake.
That really spooked me.
Did it really just fall on its own?
Well, there's kind of a constant
okay.
on my desk, like things fall because I like crammed too much stuff on there.
Oh, gotcha.
But the earthquake did really scare me.
Oh,
to
yeah.
be shook awake at 4 a.m. by the earth. Ooh, boy.
It was like a you up text from Mother Earth. And I think we need to listen. I think she's mad.
Yeah. And I do, there is something about an earthquake that is kind of fun. Like, we grew up with tornadoes, and I, love tornadoes to this day.
Really?
Yes, and I had multiple friends whose, houses were ripped down.
Oh my gosh.
I saw the ramifications of Mother Nature, but, when that sky gets yellowy green, ooh, I get some endorphin. I was like, I should be a storm chaser. Like, when I saw Twister, I was like, yes, this is for me.
What happened? I mean, there was a tornado once in the Bay when I was really little, but I don't remember seeing it, but everyone tells a story about how it blew the roof off of a church. But what's fun about it? Is it just the change, or
I think it's the adrenaline.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
and we used to have we would have tornado, we would leave school early if there was severe weather coming. But then we also had to stay at school. I remember in elementary school and high school specifically, had to stay at school till 6 p.m. because the weather was so bad that they couldn't send us home.
Whoa. That's so interesting. You just made my brain go in a place where I was like, do I have anything like that? And I don't even know if this is similar at all, but it's going to sound insane because I don't actually want to be beat up, but I have that feeling when I know I'm about to it's not even just a workout, but for example, I'm bad at snowboarding. When I'm I'm going to go snowboarding, it's not even about being the snowboarding itself. I get excited for kind of beating up my body and the feeling after of I really went through it and I'm all sore. Yeah, I don't know what that is. I don't actually want to get beat up, but sometimes I just say I want to get into a ring and just have one beat the shit out of me just because I want to know the limits of my body. But okay, disclaimer, please don't do that.
I don't think that's I'm sure there's people that feel that way. I do not feel that way. But yeah, I guess, I mean, this is not the same, but when I would, before Soul Cycle class, I would definitely be excited to be I know that this is gonna whoop my ass.
Yeah, there's definitely a thrill and a change that excites me. Okay, so I'm curious how you react to other people now, because we've definitely established that you're very comfortable. Do you get grossed out by other people doing stuff like that? Because you do seem like a very put together person. I mean, you are. I'm saying you seem in the sense that I don't know how I would feel if I was sitting on a plane next to someone going ham in their nose.
No, I would not like that. I would not like that. And I've worked at a retirement community, which a lot of people think are gross, and I do not. There's just really nothing about them that grosses me out. When people are the smell, I'm like it. They're they make me sad. I'm they make me happy. They just, the triggers for other people are not for me. And I was a nanny, so I've definitely been shit on, peed on, slobbered on, puked on. But just
people saying that retirement communities make them sad is kind of exposing their cards, because they're not, there's some really nice ones, and there are some really, especially the ones where they need volunteers, they tend to be more in need, but it's sad because of how few people are helping, not because of the people. That's how I always feel.
Some people think they're sad because of the people, though.
Yeah, man. I mean, because I volunteered at ones where it's like the cots are close together. It really doesn't feel like a nice place to be, and that's what makes me sad. But then I'm like, I'm glad I'm here with the people because they seem to not have their family and friends around. And yeah, it's just interesting. I mean, going back to that elderly thing.
I think you're a better person than most people. But to answer your question, if a man or a woman were picking their nose on a plane next to me, I would be pissed. I would be really fucking pissed.
You wouldn't be like, oh, I understand.
No. I'd be like, go in the bathroom, you sick fuck.
That's so funny. I mean, yeah, I think I'm the same way. Do you watch ASMR videos? I feel like
they gross me out.
Oh, really?
I don't like Dr. Pimple Popper. Okay. But like I sit on every public restroom toilet.
Interesting.
I'm like, I gotta sit.
I guess it's like that's probably not the place you'll get the most germs, but I'm a squatter.
I just think if we all sat, then we wouldn't have to be squatting because like the squatting is what gets the pee splatter. And it's like, well, like if we were all sitting, then our pee would be going in the toilet.
Perhaps.
That's what I think.
You have a very optimistic vision
of
the world that I'm not sure I totally agree on.
Yeah,
Although I don't know. Also, the same girls who are scared of sitting will also do coke off the toilet seat. So then I'm like, I don't know, man, just do you.
I heard this crazy story once, and it was truly like in a bathroom stall next to me. So I do not know I don't even remember where I was, but these two girls in a bathroom stall next to me were like, so-and-so, can't remember the girl's name. We'll say her name's Ashley. Ashley was on her bachelorette party and in Vegas and was squatting, and her pee splashed back up and got in her eye, and then she had pink eye for her wedding.
Oh no!
So that's a cautionary tale. Yeah.
I didn't know that was possible, but
I know. I thought only poop gave you pink eye, but I don't know. I mean, maybe Ashley did some other wild shit in Vegas.
Wow,
people definitely get pink eye from Vegas.
Yeah, but I would imagine, and maybe just even getting in the pool. That's as a person with anxiety, I have now two things to be anxious about.
I got sick from a pool in Mexico.
Really?
Yeah, I got gastroenteritis.
Like rashes?
No, full intestinal bacterial infection. Oh, no. Also, another time I shit my pants. Man. In the sorority house. Pretty tough to poop your pants in a house with 90 women.
You would think girls would be understanding, but that actually goes to
They took me to the emergency room.
Oh, that's nice. Well, I was going to say, though, because you said something about, like, being more embarrassed in front of girls than guys, and I do think that's interesting because I remember feeling more, like, needing to, I mean, I don't know if this goes back to me being, like I wasn't closeted openly because I wasn't aware that I was queer, but, like, being bisexual and, like, feeling different, like, always wanting to be, like, prove that I was like also a girl, which I am, which is why it's so funny, but then also not caring as much in front of guys, which you would think, I don't know, it just doesn't make sense when I think about it now because I feel like girls try to put that air on because they want guys to see them as girly, yet we care more about what the other girls think.
Yeah, I definitely wanted guys to think I was like pretty and hot. Yeah. And then when that wasn't happening, I was like, whatever. And then I like sort of gave up caring.
I feel like guys, especially adults, I don't think any men, well, I don't want to say any, but I think most adult men will, like, if they think you're hot, I don't think a booger pic, a fart, anything, I don't think they give up. Talk about it.
No,
like
they have very low quality standard.
Oh, I'm glad. Like
that makes her hotter. I think there's like even that. Like she's a cool girl.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting too because there's like weird double standard for the cool girl thing. Because I think some people lean into it in a way where it's like, I don't know. I definitely am guilty of that. I've leaned into like especially doing comedy in my my early years of comedy. There's a lot of like, oh, I don't care. Like, I would dress down, like, wear, like, hoodies and, like, baggy pants because I didn't want to seem like, I don't know. It's weird because now I'm like, it's okay to wear hoodies, but I'm like, that wasn't my style at the time. I almost like, transformed my style to be no style.
To fit that. Yeah, and I was dressing up and still like to.
I love that.
And
you want to look good on stage or a performer.
And had, like, headliners be like, do not wear that. Don't wear a dress tomorrow. And I was like,
whoa. Like men or women or both?
Men. Like, you should dress like, you know, in like softball tees and jeans. And it's like, if I feel like it, I will. But if I feel like being in a dress, I'm going to wear a dress. And like, that's fun. And it gives me something to talk. Like, I talked about my outfit on stage last night. Like, part of it too is it's just not, I don't want to go up looking shitty. And I just am like, people are looking at me. I want to turn a look for sure.
Yeah.
And I can't believe that was like discouraged early in my career. And I think it's fucked up.
That's wild. I've never heard of someone just straight out saying that. Like, I've definitely heard of people like it's all, you know, we all have been there and seen the judgment that newer female comedians get, especially because like new comedians in general are just not always funny. But newer female comedians, if they're attractive, tend to get a lot of scrutiny for the way they dress or the, you know, whatever. And that's just so wild. That's like the audacity that you're already on a show, you look good, you're funny, and then they're like, we have to find something wrong with this.
Yeah. There would also be that thing, and I do think this exists to some extent of like, well, if you're dressed a certain way as like a female, as a comedian, that's a woman, you're going to go on stage and there's going to be women that are going to be uncomfortable by that. Like, this is the old timey thinking of like, a woman will see you and be like, I hope my man isn't looking at her because she looks good. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think women are concerned about losing their men to me after watching me perform. I just don't think that that's like real. And I don't know. I think women appreciate when other women look good. They're like, okay, that's fun. And if a woman was in a hoodie, they'd be like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, I don't think it hurt me, but it did make me realize that I was like once I, you know, started doing shows that would have photos come out, I was like, oh, I don't I could look better. But that's so interesting that guys think that, because I think that is how they view
women.
Yeah, because
we all hate each other.
I've done, I mean, you've toured a lot more than me, but that like what I was surprised by when I started doing more like sort of road shows was, especially when I was like the only woman on the lineup, of how these guys, like, there's this unspoken like alarm when the show lets out that they all kind of like go line up at the front to like greet the girls, like it's not even like it was so weird the first time I saw it, because nobody like says anything. It's like usually I'm just like hanging out for till the next show, but I noticed all the guys were just like casually gravitating towards the front, and then girls would come up to them. And I was like, oh, this is what's going on. And it was fun when like women came up to me, because I think some of them are dragged there by, you know, I'm sure most of them are dragged there by their
it's so satisfying when the women come
and they're
up
not
and
even
talk to
trying
you
to be like, you know, they're literally just like, thank you for not being a man. Like,
presenting a perspective other than these people.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I feel like we got through so much today, and it's always such a pleasure to talk to you, and I feel like you have such well-rounded opinions, and I don't know. It's so fascinating to me, because I don't know if you remember this, but I think we met at the Legion open mic.
I'm sure.
Way back in the day. And that was literally like my first week of stand-up or something. I was
really?
like,
I didn't know that.
Well, I was doing like improv, so I was like around, so I kind of like quote unquote cheated my way into stand-up in the sense that I didn't tell anybody I was like not a stand-up. But when I decided I wanted to be more serious, I lived like a block from there. So that was like the one I went to every Sunday. I remember meeting you there and being like, oh my gosh, she's so funny. So it's really cool to like be able to like unpack all this with you, because these are all things I think a lot of people relate to, being not even on stage, but just also being a woman in comedy. You think like, yeah, you have to think about all this stuff, but you don't even think about it until after, when you realized, oh, I was doing all this work that I didn't need to be doing. I could just have relaxed and like, you know, pick my fucking nose or whatever.
No, you're just like, I like this thing, I'm going to keep doing it. And you don't really realize, you're exactly right. All the crazy shit you're putting up with to just do a thing you like.
Yeah. Well, I want to end with a quick little game. It's kind of just silly, but I know you're a fan of sports and housewives. So
yes.
Very, it's It's basically, housewife or MVP. I'm gonna read a quote, an insult, some beef, something someone said.
Okay. And I have to say if it's a housewife or an athlete.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, great. I hope I do a good job.
I think you will. It's just so fun that I wish I knew more as much as you did, because I'm sure there's even better insults, but though let's see how you do. Okay, so here's the first one. I don't care if it's Versace, name brand. I don't care. You take this home and you burn it.
Oh, that is a housewife.
Are you sure?
Oh, it's not?
It's Kevin Garnett. He was telling.
I could have sworn it was
announcer.
It was Real Housewives of Potomac. I thought it was maybe someone said to Karen Huger.
Maybe. Well, that would be.
But I love that for Kevin Garnett. I'm happy. I'm not even upset I got it wrong. I love that.
That would be wild if they both said the same thing. But yeah, KG said this to a TNT announcer.
About what he was wearing.
Yes, he hated his suit, and apparently this announcer wears wacky suits all the time, and Kevin had
I know who this is. Okay, great. I listen, 0 for 1, but I feel happy for Kevin.
I mean, yeah, and he was just like, hey, don't wear this. Okay, this one is, you're a slut pig.
Okay, that's definitely a housewife.
Do you know who it is?
And yes, it was Kim Richards saying to Brandy Glanville.
Yes. Okay. Very good. Very good. I was like, maybe this will throw you off because it's so obvious. Okay. How about this one? Take a Xanax.
That was Ramona Singer saying to Aviva Drescher.
Oh my God, you really know your quotes. Okay. Dang. Okay. Here's there's a bad word in here that was bleeped out. So, what the beep? Who ordered this crap? I wouldn't feed this to my dog.
Okay, I think this was a basketball player in the NBA bubble.
Randy Moss is.
Oh, okay, so Randy Moss.
But also. It is possible that has been said more than once, but it is a very housewifey diva thing to say.
But I did get athlete right, and I love Randy. Love Randy. Famously fake mooned. He's a great. I worship him.
I love the conspiracy theories that float around the athletes. Wait, did you say fake moon? Like he thinks the moon landing's fake?
Oh no! But there are athletes that do that think the Earth is flat and that we did not land on the moon.
I guess I didn't get the reference.
No, he once fake pulled down his pants. He didn't. He just pantomimed mooning, and people lost their shit. It's he didn't even moon you. Mooning is funny, and he didn't even do that.
Mooning is so funny. I want to normalize butts in a non-sexual way. It's a crusade I'll never win, but I think butts are hilarious. Yeah. Always thought they're hilarious as a kid. I think they're funny now, but it's a little different now.
And fake mooning is so funny. He was fake mooning the crowd. It was hilarious.
It's context. It's obviously if you're here's my juicy booty and I'm gonna twerk, then it looks sexual. But if I'm ha ha, here's a full moon, whatever.
No, nobody agrees.
Nobody agrees with me. But
he was doing it out of anger, which makes it better.
Who's the guy who sent the fake, the real dick pic on accident? Was it Klay Thompson? Oh my God.
Oh, I mean,
I remember.
I've seen a lot of athletes.
There was one where he posted it on Snapchat, public, but he meant
there was a NBA player who went live on accident getting his dick sucked by his girlfriend.
No, oh God.
He's on the Jazz or Nuggets.
Oh my God.
It's not Donovan Mitchell. He had a great bubble time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's I hope she got some sort of settlement out of that. I feel
they're still together, I think. And she was but then she was a really hot volleyball player or soccer player, and so then there were all these pictures. The men were getting excited.
Guess being a public figure, okay. Well, you did great on this game. No surprises. So congratulations. Your prize is you get to tell us where to find your comedy, where to follow you, anything you want to plug.
Oh, I would love for people to listen to the Lifetime podcast. Naomi and I have so much fun covering these truly wild movies. We just did one called Did I Kill My Mother? ? Just fun titles. So listen to that. And then my Twitter is at Megan Gailey, and I feel I post shows and anything I have coming up. So, and then just, fun little thoughts that pop into my dumb head.
Yeah, follow Megan. Oh, yeah, I forgot to read a tweet of yours, but I'll read it right now because I like to read them in the beginning. When your husband has a sneaker obsession, all shoes are Satan shoes. I found that hilarious,
Thank
referencing
you.
Lil Nas X's Satan.
Love Lil Nas X. He's a king.
Yeah, I mean, great political and just general humor on Megan Gailey's Twitter. I recommend. You can follow this podcast at Tell Me Anything Pod and follow me at Larissa T on Twitter. Thank you.